Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. In today's Gospel, Jesus asks his disciples a question. Who is my mother and who are my brothers? When we hear the question, who is my mother and who are my brothers, doesn't it seem out of character for Jesus to dismiss his family so easily? What would Mary and others have thought when they heard him say these words? Although it sounds extreme to us, but in reality, he was not disowning his family. Of course, Jesus loved his family. But here as Jesus was preaching and teaching, he decided to make an important point, and he emphasized that point by saying, "Be with the Heavenly Father, and when we are with Him, then we become true sons and daughters of the Father." So further Jesus says, "Here are my mother and my brothers, for whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." The phrase, "whoever does the will of my Father," is very important. When we look into the life of Christ on the earth, he did not do his own will, but constantly did the will of his heavenly Father. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 4, verse 34, Jesus clearly says, "My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to complete his work." This is what Jesus expects from each one of us too. Dear brothers and sisters, very often we wonder what the will of the Father is. How can we know the will of the Heavenly Father, or where can we find it? St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, defines the will of God, which is the object of mind's activity, as the good, the acceptable and perfect. What St. Paul means then is that whatever the conscience tests and finds good, acceptable and perfect is in fact the will of our Heavenly Father. And when these three things are in our lives, then we fall in love with the person of Jesus, and Jesus, out of his infinite love, establishes a connection with you and me that is thick as blood, that no one can separate us from the love of Christ. Amen.